back at the USGF Championships from the campus of Ohio State. This is Charlie Jones along with Marshall Avener and our guest commentator due to the flu, Bart Conner. The next event is the side or pommel horse in individual championships, averaging the score of the first 2 rounds plus today's score. The standings, Jim Hartung is in first place, Peter Vidmar is second, and Phil Cahoy is third. This is Mike Wilson. He is tied for 8th.
Bart, does Mike have a particularly difficult side-horse routine? Would you call it a strength of his?
He has a new exercise. Here he does the flare, more, flare, which is a C trick, very difficult. And then he finishes with the rest of his routine with mostly swing skills. He gets his scissors out of the way at the beginning of the routine and then swings and does uphill hop, back more down, loop around, and dismount. Very nice exercise.
That's a nice change of pace to see the scissors early.
23-year-old Mike Wilson, who graduated from the University of Oklahoma in 1979. His score's a 9.35, and that could well move him up in the competition. This is Larry Gerard. Larry was third in the all-around, and he stands fourth in the side horse.
Larry Gerard has a new pommel horse routine. He'll begin with a backmore reach across. Very difficult mount. Little break in rhythm, but he seemed to hold it together there very well.
Do you think this is the first time he tried that in a meet?
This is one of the first competitions that Larry's done this trick.
Right here, Larry's legs are hitting the horse a lot harder than he'd like, I'm sure, and I bet that set the judges' pencils in motion. He just wants to get off clean. He's in a little bit of trouble. I think he can save it if he can hang in there. He does. Good dismount.
Larry Gerard. Larry's score, a 9.35. And so he takes over first place with only Jim Hartung, the leader in the side horse, still to come.
Here's Jim Hartung. He's leading the pommel horse. He's a very consistent performer. And Bart, I guess this is one of the events where consistency pays off more than ever, wouldn't you say?
Yes, Jim is very strong in his support, so he can keep control of the routine at all times. Jim also has about 15 routines that he can do. He can just pull anyone out of the bag that he wants. This is one of his easier routines, but still a very clean routine.
This is about routine number 7. I ain't seen this one in a long time.
Number 7, says Coach Francis Allen. I guess he's heard you, Bart. Jim finishes strong, having a very good competition. I bet he's pleased with himself, but he doesn't really show much reaction.
Jim needs only a 9.05 to win the title in the side horse. Let's take another look at his routine.
Here's Jim Hartung going into what's known in America as the Thomas Flare, but oddly enough, this particular trick is going down in the International Code of Points as the American Flare in an attempt to get proper names out of the rule book.
Jim Hartung's score, a 9.55. So that means that Jim Hartung wins the side horse competition with Larry Gerard finishing second and Mike Wilson third. We'll be back with more gymnastics later, but now let's join Sam Nover at the American Zone Finals of the World Championship of Amateur Bowling. Ron Gallimore has won the vault competition here in Columbus with a total score of 19.57, an average of 9.825. This is Ron's second individual title here at the U.S. Men's Gymnastics Championships. Second in the vault, Casey Edwards, and third, Percy Price. We'll be back with the parallel bars and high bar championships later on Sports World. There's lots more to come. Stay tuned. This is Charlie Jones along with Marshall Avener and our guest commentator Bart Conner. The U.S. Men's Gymnastics Championships. The next event, the rings. The average of the 2 preliminary rounds plus today's score with Jim Hartung leading Peter Vidmar and Casey Edwards. And Peter Vidmar is next up.
Peter's being lifted to the rings by his coach, Makoto Sakamoto, who actually won this event in 1970 and 72. Next to the likes of Jim Hartung and Ron Gallimore, Peter's body actually tends to look a bit frail, but he's deceivingly strong. He's about to display that strength. Just watch this L cross. Rock solid. Kips up to an L position, about to do his press to a handstand. He did it a bit quickly, usually a sign that he's getting a little tired, preparing for the dismount. Full twisting, double flyaway, one small step, should be a good score.
Peter Vidmar of UCLA, second in the rings, coming into the finals, and his score a 9.55. Now the leader in the rings, Jim Hartung, is next up.
Note the apparatus on the hands to ensure the proper grip and protect the wrists from irritation.
Jim Hartung's very solid on this event. We have a standing joke that he gets a 9.65 or 9.7 every time, no matter what he does.
I notice he is keeping his legs together on the planche that we already saw that strength move. Oh, there he picked up a little bit of swing on the rings.
Yeah, that could cost him a little bit, but he seems to be in good control here. 2 straight arm front giants. He's changed the routine around a little bit. Looks like he's trying to add a little difficulty. Now Pike full twisting, double back. Excellent landing.
Jim Hartung, who needs a 9.45 to stay in the lead in the rings.
Here we get a good look at Jim Hartung's planche, where he holds his body parallel to the earth and attempts to weld his shoulders into position momentarily and hold that position for 2 full seconds right here. Now he strains, and he manages to hold it for the required time.
Jim Hartung's score a 9.7, which puts him in an excellent position to win his second individual title. Next up is Casey Edwards. Casey needs a 9.9 to win the event, a 9.6 to finish second. He's 23 years of age, from the University of Wisconsin at Oshkosh, the NAIA and NCAA Division II all-around champion.
The mere size of the muscles in his arms and shoulders is a foreshadowing of the strength move that's to come in his routine.
Casey has a little bit of swing here. It's important for him now to compensate and kill the swing. Very good. Notice there's no swing in the rings now.
There's the L cross, and he pulls out of it. Listen to the audience reaction. Holding the rings perfectly steady. Getting off clean. Good landing.
A good routine for Casey Edwards.
Let's take another look at that L cross. Right now, gravity's pulling him down, and he just defies it and pulls himself back up. Mere power, raw strength.
Casey Edwards' score, he does it, a 9.6. That's good enough for second place. So the official results in the rings, Jim Hartung wins his second individual title, Casey Edwards finishes second, and Peter Vidmar finishes third. And now back to Sam Nover for the women's finals of the American Zone competition in the World Championship of Amateur Bowling. This is Charlie Jones with Marshall Abner and our guest commentator Bart Connor. We're back at the USGF Championship. Bart, the next event is the parallel bars. You are the defending world champion in this event. What is the key? What do we look forward to?
We're looking forward to a very clean performance with all the stock elements, plus a little bit of risk, something that no one else can do, perhaps working on one rail, and that'll determine the champion.
And this is 25-year-old Larry Gerard. He is currently tied for first in the parallel bars. We take the average of the 2 preliminary scores, plus today's score, to determine the champion.
You know, at age 25, that's a credit to Larry. The fact that he's tied for first in this event, he's far and away the senior gymnast of all the gymnasts we've seen in today's show. Good, solid exercise. Should score in the mid-9s. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to hold on to first place, however.
And you can tell from the look in Larry's eyes, it's becoming a long and tedious competition. His score, a 9.4. And that will bring up Ron Gallimore. Ron, who has already won the flow exercise and the vault, is currently in third place in the parallel bars.
I've got to compliment Ron Gallimore and his coach Ed Gagne for the fabulous improvement he's made on the parallel bar event. Let's see how he does, Bart.
Ron Gallimore begins with a jump to support and then cast support, swing pirouette handstand. A very classical mount. Stutz to handstand, very much in control. A drop cast showing his underbar requirement, and what we call a whip it. Very nicely done.
There's the press to a handstand, straight arms, straight legs. Back toss to a handstand, lost a little bit of control, but he regained it right there. regains his composure, gets steady for the dismount, double back somersault, pike position, good exercise.
Ron Gallimore. Now he needs a 9.5 to take the lead from Larry Gerard.
Coach Ed Gagne very pleased with the exercise. Let's take another look at part of Ron's routine. Now here's the preparatory skill, a cast to an upper arm support, and he's about to go to the whippet that Bart mentioned before. A front somersault from the upper arm support, straddles the legs around to a cut catch to an L position.
And the score for Ron Gallimore is a 9.5. So he has taken over first place in the parallel bars with only Phil Cahoy to go.
Parallel bars is a dynamic event for Phil Cahoy. He does some very interesting skills here. He begins with a cast support, swing pirouette. Stutz to handstand. Back toss, a little bit over. And an excellent whippet swing handstand pirouette. Tremendous sequence.
Beautiful exercise for Phil Cahoy. That should score very well for him.
And his father, Phil Cahoy Sr., who's been his coach for most of his career, seems very pleased. Phil needs a 9.5 to win the championship.
This is a beautifully executed Diamondov, named after the famous Russian gymnast who invented the trick or actually introduced it to international competition. The dismount, a front somersault with 1.5 twists. Did not quite complete the twist, but stood up and corrected the problem like an old pro.
His score, Phil Cahoy, a 9.7. So he wins his first national title. Ron Gallimore finishes second, and Larry Gerard finishes third in the parallel bars. The next event, the high bars.